Hello.
Hello. How are things?
Great. I'm tired, but great. Very fun.
There you go.
Really exciting and fun.
Yeah.
But I'm tired, and well, I hope to be able to, redefine my routine starting next week. I would like to be more present here again. Besides, just coming here to office hours. So yeah, and I'm reading speculative everything. So I'm reframing. You know, we need to do these kind of things. I'm reading so much new stuff. Your essay that I'm still processing. Speculative everything now. Podcast. A lot of things happening. So I have to
All the
digest,
things.
as you say. Yeah,
All the things. Yeah. You
and
just let it
frame and
just let it just like taking a bath. Just kind of let it just
yes,
kind of
yes. I'm soaking
luxuriate.
everything.
Yeah.
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 And but I was reading here on speculative everything a very I'm having some other epiphanies, but your essay was more different than about epiphanies. But I was just reading here dark design, the positive use of negativity. Oh, and this is
Sorry,
really
say the title again before the
and this it's a chapter that has here a section that is dark design, the positive
it's
use of negativity.
dark, DARK.
Yes, dark
Okay.
design. And well, I was looking at this because sometimes I think that people blur a line between, or I think I'm very realistic about things and the
Mm-hmm.
future, but I think that people listen to realistic people or pessimist people because they don't want to embrace that little bits of reality that might
Mm.
happen. People are very much into, oh, this is not going to happen. Climate inaction, climate inaction is about that, right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to be reading this, and when I saw here this part about dark design, I found it really helpful for someone like me to understand where should I position myself, when communicating, and what kind of messages should I be communicating. It's very interesting.
Yeah, like purpose. What am I doing this for?
Yeah, we had a brilliant when the masterclass with J. Paul Neely. He always invites Ted Hunt. I really do appreciate Ted Hunt's work. He now on Instagram, he posted about the mirrored world. It's playing with Wired, the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
It's inverted.
Yeah.
Okay, and he talks about this what if the future is not so optimistic? And we talked about that, about that approach. It was a very good discussion that somehow links to this dark design, because usually, and I like that part, how you present design fiction, and it's playful, and what are you looking at, and how you build design fiction. But if we approach it in a different way, because I think that if we look to speculative design, I think that this is a big difference that I see between design fiction that you coined and, for example, speculative design. Speculative design, you go from signals, and when you are making the future wheel, you are already, depending on the subject, into these pessimistic, let's call it, realities or prospects for the future, right? And then from there, it's easy to fall into this not so optimistic. It's easy to fall in the dystopian future, right?
Yeah.
And the possibilities might easily fall into these dystopian futures. And I'm very eager to read your book, but I think that from what I got from these office hours and from the essay, is that design fiction allows us to move into the more positive and playful side and hopeful side of designing futures, right? We move a little bit away. It's easier to move away from, and that's what is needed, right? We need to have hopeful, optimistic, and positive, playful futures rather than being always in this dystopian thing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I'm not entirely sure, which isn't me saying like I think I'm not sure about what you're saying, or I think that maybe you're a little. I honestly don't know, because it comes up, like it came up in that, and I don't know. And part of me now thinks, as I was listening to you, that maybe the normative kind of spectrum, positive or negative, and optimistic versus pessimistic. I wonder, and this is how let me frame this, because it's just coming to me as I'm sitting here, like the neurons are trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in my head. The if you put on something a category, like a classification. The classification is optimistic, pessimistic, utopian, dystopian, then that's going to frame your entire way of thinking about whatever it is that you're trying to get to. And I guess I would say is that I wonder that if, I'm thinking back to this book, add this one to your list. Sorting Things Out by Susan Lee Starr. Okay. I thought this was an absolute, this was a great one, because it talks about categories, and it's mostly within the sciences, but there's more to it than that. Role of categories and standards in shaping the modern world. Okay, so it's talking about ISO 9600. How did that change the way in which the world worked, and this screw sizes. It's just, it's fascinating in that way. But the general, if I were to generalize that, so if we start saying which one's optimistic, which one's pessimistic, that's how we're going to see these things, and that's how we're going to hold them in relation, right? As this one is positive and this one is is negative. And I think it might be neither. That's maybe not the classification system we want to use. Maybe it's and I don't know what. Let's think. What would be another classification system? It'd be
I'm not saying that you don't.
No, I'm not saying that you are.
I'm not saying that we don't arrive to positive scenarios. Of course, yes,
Yeah.
using that the structural process coming from the signals, future wheels, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that kind of structure might lead us more easily,
Yes.
depending
what
on
you're
the
saying.
subject.
Yeah.
Because if you are talking about water scarcity,
Yeah.
obviously that you will arrive to some complicated issues, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some other subjects are not like this, but I think that not having so much structure, and I think that's the point with design fiction, really might open more or reframe things, as you are saying, to remove completely this idea that we
Mm-hmm.
have to be here or there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's more,
a fascinating
it's,
topic. Yeah.
but I don't know still. I still have also to read
I don't
your
know
book.
either.
You know that I'm a newcomer to this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it feels to me that sometimes when we apply more structure, and I'm a very analytical person, right?
I
I'm
know
an
you are.
engineer, and
Yeah.
I come from the foresight. I started more than a year ago, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
read everything that was trends and articles about foresight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you also foresight frames very much this structure and these ideas of classification, you end up there.
Yeah.
It's analytical.
Yeah.
So, and I think that from that point of view, from what I read from your essay, if I understood it well, design fiction allows us to, you know, reframe things or frame things differently, have a different starting point, not so tied to that analytical, you know, structure. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I like it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Part of me I feel like for some reason it's like, and I don't know, it's at least the kind of design fiction that I like to do, particularly that I like to do with Dre. It's like a little bit wry and droll. It's got a, which I don't know why, like, why is that? Like, why, how come we're not, just talking about like the end of the world and like the network falling apart? I don't know. I'm just drawn to it. It's another way of talking about the future to be like, I don't know what it is. What is it, Trey? You know about this. You're an ad guy. Like, you know how these things work on the human brain.
I'm so Christina, I totally get where you're coming from in terms of that. I think what it really is just the person. I don't think design fiction makes it any easier or leans towards any one optimistic versus pessimistic point of view. I think it's really like the person behind the work. I did a lot of strategic foresight, and I think it's easy to think about the really, really bad stuff. Super, super easy. And it's easy to just pick on all the negative things in the world. And I would work with really, really talented strategic foresight practitioners that did really elaborate world building and really tried to figure out the details before crafting the scenarios. But the thing that I've always kind of felt was that, like, a good science fiction book, a good story is so much better than any strategic foresight I've ever seen. Like, the best strategic foresight, to use that in air quotes, has already been written by great sci-fi authors, and sometimes they take a humorous approach to it. Like, look at Stevenson, right? Neil Stevenson writes really, really great things, and he engages the imagination, and he creates these strategic foresight like detail in the work that he does. But his humor, he's got a good sense of humor. He's got this dry, kind of edgy sense of humor. He does really fun stuff with words in terms of crafting clever word shapes, and that's the way he is. Whereas I think that with design fiction, I think Julian and I have similar sense of humor towards things and embracing of weirdness, that we can let design fiction be a tool to express fun, weird ideas. We can still be really critical about stuff.
I know that. I'm not saying that, but what
Do it
I
with a smile.
grasped what I grasped so far since I joined Office Hours,
Yeah.
and is what you just said. You make it playful, but obviously critical. But because also you are not, or maybe here I'm making a bad judgment. I think that this also happens because you are not so tied to a structure, a formal structure to arrive, to make something happen.
Yeah,
That's my point here.
no, yeah.
This all started because I started finally to read the speculative everything.
Yeah,
And I was saying to Julian that I was telling Julian that I'm finding very interesting that there is a section here called Dark Design, the positive use of negativity. And I was thinking of, these kind of subjects, how to position ourselves. And as you just said, it's when you arrive to, especially from trends, to some information about global resources, climate change, and whatsoever, it's easy to be pessimistic, right?
Yeah, I do struggle with like obsessing with structure. Like I love structure. I love putting things in little boxes. I like codifying everything. Like that's a thing that I really, really enjoy. I try not to stay too hard to it because the best stuff that I do is usually unstructured, not really well planned or thought out. But when I sit down and I have an idea, like I have a thing that I'm doing right now. I'm writing some stuff around design fiction because I'm seeing a structure. I'm seeing a structure in how certain design fiction is created, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I can crack the code. I think, and I won't ever do that, but I'm going to have a lot of fun coming up with some ideas that classify and define certain types of design fiction. But yeah, I think ultimately the best work comes from just unstructured craziness. I think that's just it's fun, and it comes from the gut, and you might be informed by structure. You might, and that's the reason why your gut is letting you come up with these great ideas, because you've got this inherent understanding, and the dots have all been positioned. I always talk about like collecting the dots and then connecting the dots. And yes, that's what I love about structures. Like you're collecting the dots. Like you've got, Julian there collecting the dots of books in the background. For some reason, every time he mentions a book, you should look at this. It just happens to be right next to him. I rarely ever see you go to the back shelf. So I'm not sure if he's just pre-scripted this entire meeting and that we are in a deterministic Zoom call, and everything I just said was something he wrote yesterday.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you just said. Collecting the dots and connecting the dots.
Yeah, the more you collect, the more you get to connect later on. And I think that's the nice thing about structure and unstructure. And connecting the dots can just be randomly connecting them to force a connection. I love forced connections, or methodically connecting them by like clumping them in a group and saying, hey, these all live together, therefore there's a relationship.
I had to come back on camera for that, Dre, because that was so spot on with Julian's books. Like, I swear to God, there is like the most random article or like image, and Julian, you're like right here.
just happen to have.
And having now been in your studio, I'm like, it's not right there. It's not like all your books are right within arm's reach,
Actually, this is a very flat room. These are very small books.
Oh, it's so funny. That was brilliant.
Hey, Dre, should we just quickly do mention the sticker pack project?
Yeah, sure. Let's play with the sticker pack project. If
or what are we calling it? It's just the channel reference. I think it was like
Yeah, let me, I think it's Design Fiction Sticker Pack. It's on the Discord.
Trading card.
It's
Trading
in the
cards. That's right.
trading cards. That, yeah. Hang on, where is it? Now I'm like, maybe we should go with, here we go. Design Fiction Trading Cards.
Should we say sticker pack? Should we change the name of it?
Now let's just call them trading cards. They're kind of trading
Okay.
cards. They're kind of sticker packs. So if you, it's not a long channel. If you scroll right to the top, you'll see this mini market Mario Brothers, which is something that Julian sent me over Instagram. And I was confused. I hadn't seen any of these like Nintendo knockoff corner stores or bodegas. Yeah. And but what's great is that every item has this like thick white outline, which evokes like a sticker. And Julian was like something about stickers, and he said something, and then I you know, I just like to play on my computer while I watch TV, so I whipped up Illustrator and Photoshop, and I just started putting some stuff together. So the next couple of images on that thread are mock-ups. I just created this bodega dumpster sticker pack, inspired by the future dumpster diving. And you know, I have this this Betterment Hagenblas ice cream that I created, which is like I had this elaborate idea that it's a deck of cards and they're like stickers, and you can peel the sticker off and it reveals a QR code and you can mint it on the blockchain. Just went really, really high. And then we started talking about wacky packages, which is what he posted down below there, which I thought was really cool. And
those are my trading cards when I was a kid. I didn't do sports. I did weird Art Spiegelman, what fucked up art of weird brands.
I love that. I love this. I think this is so good, and I like the play on words and the puns that are happening there. And then similarly, I really liked Garbage Pail Kids, which is what the cards I designed were kind of inspired by. So yeah, Julian did a haul video of Wacky Packages book that he's got that happens to be like 6 inches to his right now.
Yeah, this is right over there. There are actually two of them. I'll do another haul video. I mean, they're, you know, they went through time. You can see the way in which the art kind of refines itself, and it's incredible.
And then and here's some other examples of like how, or I guess typography and packaging and so on and so forth, to kind of give that. There's this aesthetic of retro bad, like bad typography in a retro style that I think would do really well. But yeah, so I played around with I have an Illustrator file that I was goofing with. Let's see if I can just share my screen and you can peek at that real quick.
Oh, is that off? Let me enable.
No, you need to
share
you
screen.
need to cast this. You need to cast the spell. I don't know how to do it.
Share screen.
I don't see a share screen. Is that the bottom of the
share screen?
Oh, I see it. It's green. It's the one button that looks different than all the other ones. Amazing. Makes me want to share the entire screen. All right, here we go. All right. Yeah, I started with doing, using these like garbage pail type of, you know, you got the peel here, and you got this thin line where you can see the sticker. So I did the same thing here, played with the idea of the bodega dumpster, and, you know, peeling it back and revealing the QR code. And here's some kind of a holographic thing. And then I got some wacky packages reference, just basically like retro. This is probably really, really early days wacky packages with the thick dark outline. So that's what I did here. I did the thick dark outline around this. Modern day wacky packages tend to be just white around it. Doesn't say too much beyond what's going on there. But I think that there's something interesting in doing something simple like this. I'm not saying that we rip off the wacky packages look, but I just wanted to do this as a visual exercise, and we come up with our own look, and that could be on a different color. I do think that this outline works really well. Like it could easily be done in white. Now, let's see.
Part of me wonders, so there are two things that so this is great. This is amazing. Very, it definitely stimulates a lot of thought. So like one thought that comes to mind is like, okay, so in what way do we align? I like the archetype. I mean, it's obviously, I like the archetype. It's beautiful, of doing sticker packs. Like, like we were talking, Jay, it's like, I've already looked like, what are the machines that actually you can seal the packages with, all that stuff. And or who's the operation that you could just do it and just commission them to do, 10 boxes of 144 packs or something, whatever it is.
Just get a hair straightener and pay someone to crimp the ends.
Yeah, that's right. So one thing is like, how do you get it to align with the purpose? We make products from the future, right? And then how do you do it? So like, what are the things? Are they just brand puns, or are they things that like, one thing that comes to mind was for a project from a few years ago, where one of the things, it was a climate change book, and the guy wanted some design fiction to go along with it to illustrate it. And one of the things was Norwegian olives. The implication being that, with climate change, the Mediterranean is now in, northern Europe. And the implication is also like, yeah, I mean, there's climate change, but we may do, things just changed, and it wasn't about getting extended mags for your AR-15 or something. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I was also trying to imagine visually what the visual archetype was. And I kept coming back to and it's probably just because I knew that I could, in the same way that you could prototype quickly with what you did, I started thinking about prototyping quickly with in 3D. And I started thinking like a lot of when crypto projects or whatever try to go into the CPG direction, like consumer packaged goods, they often do like the 3D thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll do like a 3D chocolate bar, or something, or a 3D.
They're all done in 3D now.
They're all done in 3D,
yeah.
And that says a lot. One of the things it says is like there's a certain fluency with that, with the tool chain. Oh, I got Blender, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And you can get or product mocks, the Photoshop product mocks. You can get product mocks for everything. So anyway, those were just random thoughts, like without any kind of conclusion. But I think that the first thing is like, just thinking about what the function of these, like if how much are they, how can we do them so that they stay, so it feels like something that we, near future laboratory hypercollab would like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I could totally see them doing this kind of drop. Yeah.
When I look at this, it's, I don't think anything has to be one thing. I think brand parody is, brand puns are, they're kind of easy. You just find something, go play with it, see what comes of it. And we might come up with lots and lots and lots. Then again, the idea of Norwegian olives is pretty fun. And we can just come up with brand new ideas, and they can coexist. They can just be, we can just mix them up, and it doesn't matter. Some things are brand parody, and some people might even ask, like, what is this? Yeah. Is this a pun on a brand? Is Norwegian olive thing? And it's like, no, it's just another brand. Does it need to be classified as a pun? No. Then again, we could have brand puns that exist as stickers like this, and maybe different products that live in a different type of sticker, and we can differentiate them so that that in your trading card pack, the ones with the white outlines are brand puns, the ones with the black outlines are not, or original things. We can just invent that. To me, I almost feel like we just come up with a giant list of whatever. And then the bigger that list goes, people can just go and execute it. And if we come up with a standard, let's say we say, it's going to be a white background with a black outline. Cool, go nuts. You've got, the rules, start making making your things, and we can just get into production that way. If you don't know how to use Illustrator or Photoshop, you just sketch it on something and somebody else will jump in and work with you to make it real. But yeah, I don't think we need to impose any rules, and I think we just start to see what the ideas start looking like, and then we corral them into something that makes sense. I just took tons of liberties by inventing looks and words and so on and so forth, none of which I expect to stick around, but I felt that it was enough to. I like making something that people can criticize and go like, well, what if we didn't do it this? What if it wasn't good? Now we have something to work from, as opposed to the blank page.
Yeah, good stuff. Cool.
Nice. I want to show the Imagine Harder thing that I sent you. Is that right?
Yeah,
Boom.
sure.
Speaking of brand puns, I want this t-shirt.
Yeah, it's a good one. We should these just came in. I made some cards to just send out with this when I do VIP books.
Nice. Time to imagine harder.
The old Apple ads. This one I like the best.
Are those postcards that you got made?
Yeah, these are postcards.
Amazing.
The old Apple II ad. So just like a little card, just to when I send out to VIP or whatever. I don't know, just send them out to whatever. Actually, I put one in a envelope for something I just sold on eBay. It was a bicycle computer mount. I just threw one of these in there. Just kind of like, hey, thanks for your order. Time to imagine harder, dude.
That's awesome.
Love making stuff. All right, what else?
Housekeeping. I think we have a week until the deadline for accessories for the chore coat. Is this accurate?
Someone's got a Gantt chart, it sounds like.
For accessories, is that what you said, Camille?
Yeah, we got a deadline coming up for that, correct?
Yeah. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So I sent this out to folks. If there's any feedback on it, I just did these two little renderings down here as sort of an easy entry point, I think, for people who aren't part of the lab or who haven't been on our calls, to hopefully get an idea of like how what I'm trying to get at. If anyone has language or recommendations on how to edit this, I'm going to send this out again today. So if you want to message me, I'm not attached to this. I'm always happy to edit things. So any structure, if you want to give me a critique now on this, I'm happy to change it up with language or whatnot. I'm excited because I've reached out to a couple people in my fashion world contacts, some editors at some different publications, and they're going to contribute. They've asked to remain anonymous solely because of where they work, but I'm excited that they're getting involved. So that's kind of a fun little addition. I don't think that will go anywhere, but I'm glad that I'm kind of getting on their radar. One actually works in is the director of accessories for, I would say like a top 10 publication in fashion. So he's really pumped for this. So it's kind of fun to see how people are reacting to it in the fashion world. So I'm just kind of enjoying that. But yeah, that's pretty much, the deadline is next week. I'm starting to compile the list already. Any thoughts on this?
Sorry, go on. Go, Brandon.
Is this a physical object that you're going to be distributing?
This is the digital accessories. So, yeah. So I'll actually segue into so I had a call this week with Brandel, and we talked about sort of the ways in which we can make this digital. So Brandel, this would be sort of what you and I were talking about this week, this would be that digital element, if that makes sense.
No, I was just in terms of if this was a leaflet, making sure that it's the sort of the goal of it and the action of it is legible from appropriate distances using type. But it also depends on how sort of compelled people are by accessorizing the near future on its own. How clear the sort of the call to action on it is. So it was really just a really purely mechanical sort of question of how to execute on having the clarity of action be visible at the appropriate sort of viewing distances and level of engagement with the artifact.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with, I'm not really good at this call to action type of stuff. Are you saying that there should be more like a bolder call to action here?
Yeah, I would, from my sort of marketing experience, I would say find what's the dumbest thing that you would say to somebody of like what you want them to do because they see this, and can you kind of live with yourself just writing that on it as well?
Randall, not everyone here is as smart as you.
No, I just mean
maybe
like
the dumbest thing you would say, but it may not be for us.
That's not what I mean by dumbest. It's not like it's like in the simplest terms, what is the outcome that you want to have somebody do when they see this? And then can you live with, because the thing is like we always want to be clever with our writing. And that's where, you know, like the sort of the two-part academic paper sort of convention comes from, is having some kind of clever thing, and then
colon.
Colon.
And then you say what you actually meant.
Yeah, just to get it out of your system, you know.
Yeah.
And so how I talk in my daily life.
Yeah, we do. But putting the part after the colon in it, or having the piece do the job of the bit after the colon as well, is really valuable. So yeah, that's all I was thinking about in terms of like type matrices and making sure that reads, because accessorize in the near future tells you what you want, but then a slight clarification beyond that could be constructive, depending on whether these are things on a table that you need to have somebody distribute or something.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I'm also like a little bit kind of happily stumped by what we're looking for, and I think maybe we all are, but that's the point of having not just this conversation but also putting this out there, so that people are gonna. So what is there a way in which we can do this so that without being didactic about it, it's like we want to get people's ideas about even what this means,
right? And
not in words, but just like, what else would you have with you? And so some people might take it and it's impossible, I think, at this level for us to anticipate what this could possibly mean, because this is an idea from the future, right? And in the future there was a time when someone said, do you want a can of tuna fish? And people have been like, what's a can? And so I feel like we're at that stage where it's like we're trying to be in this future where something has happened, where there is this idea of accessorizing a digital accessory to the jacket that you just bought at Ross Dress for Less. You'd be like, what is that thing? What and what does it become when that's such a hygienic thing that people don't even wonder about? It's like, you bought it at Ross, well, they had the really cool accessories, and they're all different and weird, but what does that mean? Does it mean that when you get that jacket, it comes with a month of Dunkin' Donuts extra large coffees through the digital accessory? Or does it come
and then
with,
it's so personal too. Like the guy that I was talking to, his mind is constantly thinking marketing and promotion, right? So he just came off this campaign where he was doing something for, I think it was Bulgari, and it was all like jewels for coming up for Easter or some campaign for the spring. And so when I asked him the question, I was like, what accessories do you want to take into the future? He was like, oh, I would probably promote, you know, these jewelry brands. And I was like, no, this would be about your interpretation of the near future and what you would want on your coat for your adventuring. And he was like, oh, I got to get back to you on that. And then it was just like this really cool. And then he like messaged me back on Insta and he was like, so this is about me, not about what I would then need to promote. And I was like, yeah, this is solely about you. Right. And so then there was this idea about this. I liked this idea that even this person being able to have this like purely indulgent moment for his accessory. I just like, there's something really gratifying to me about that, but then it's also communicating that so that they don't, I don't know how to communicate that in the near future. Cause it's like, I think I am overthinking it to some degree. But I want there to be some ambiguity because I don't want them to be like, I like rings, you know, it's like, because I am getting some of that feedback and then I'm trying to push back on them a little bit and say, okay, think about it this way. Yeah.
It sounds like you have a clear idea of what it means. If you're able to kind of do a little, you know, the kind of linguistic maneuver of being like, no, more like this.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not very good at doing posters or bullets. That's just not my specialty, is not one-liners, not speaking in brevity. But I do feel like I need to condense this. Like even the graphic of this image is just too much. So I think I'm gonna try to make it briefer, make it more brief.
Yeah. Do you
I just had a thought that I heard you say, Kent, and it was, I guess it was more just a question or an observation. Just you said accessories that you want to bring with you into the future was kind of one thought you said, and then I was kind of looking at this thing like, well, from the perspective of what do we bring back from the future, right? So in some ways I was like, what? I guess it's maybe that's to your point of the tuna fish can. Really, was that you know, is this idea of you know what the can is in the future something that is with this coat so you can have it for the future? I guess a good idea. I mean, I was in one way I was looking at, like I read this, or I think I added one thing to the Miro board and wanted to come up with some other things, and I was like, I'll just think about some other stuff. And I always default to like, I think I put like a mechanical sheep as just like a pack mule or something to take with you.
What a surprise! What a surprise!
Right. I default to that, but
yeah,
but
hooved animals. You bring a bunch of hooved animals,
right? Something that unfolds or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Flat pack sheep.
Yeah. But now you got me thinking of it differently, because I was kind of like, well, what is that future object that was maybe discovered, and you know, it's comes with the coat, and I'm gonna use this key in a sense for doing something in the future with the coat, maybe, opposed to like, what do I want to bring that I have around me now? Anyways, I'm just saying this because it just got me thinking different when I was listening to you there for a minute. So I'm still thinking about what a couple more accessories this could be.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I sort of think of it in the same way, like, because some people will think of their near future accessories as things that have yet to be invented, but are going to be like, their future accessories are going to go with them into their near future for their futuring adventures. So that accessory, I think, is equally as valid as an accessory like a toolkit, that you would take with you that we now maybe have more aesthetic language or, you know, we can visualize easily now? But I still equally like these concepts that come up that's like, we don't even know what that is yet, right? Like the idea of somebody bringing up a tin can before the tin can was invented. I don't want to discard that as being like, oh, that's a joke. I want to like validate that just as much.
Yeah, I think that to me that feels right. So like the thing, so trying to find the way to not do necessarily what you expect people would expect. You know, it just
Yeah.
given you know our current epistemology, our current like sort of perspective on everything from like what is an accessory to what is a digital what is a digital thing that comes along with a physical thing, right? I mean, you know, there are a bunch of really easy like kind of knee-jerk things like, oh well, you get that thing that you can also plug into Roblox, right? That's a thing that people take for granted, but almost certainly that will not, that's not the end point of the whole thing. Like at some point someone's going to do something that feels what's like what's a crazy thing that happened that then became normalized? I don't know. I mean,
well, I can just, I'll chime in with that.
those kinds of
A
things.
lot
Like,
of things, Julian.
yeah, I know.
Have you seen the news this week?
I'm trying to think of
Dances on
just like
TikTok.
I'm trying to think of
TikTok
like
dances.
the yeah. Well, you know, maybe to a certain degree, but it's like, you know, what are the things that are, yeah, because I mean it's hard to tell because like now it's like no, you could totally see that coming, but you probably couldn't. Yeah, but you know, like so those things, that's what we're looking for. That weird thing, like that your jacket comes with a dance. You're like, eh? I'm not even sure what that would be. Is it like a little card that, you know, like those foxtrot things that show you how to do it, or is it? I guess the knee jerk thing is like now your digital avatar can like floss, you know, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I was working on this presentation, which I'll try to give for next
that's
week.
actually a good one. I like that one. It's like floss level 6. It's like, oh damn, really?
When Brandel and I were in our call this week, you said this phrase, Brandel, that I've been thinking a lot about, and this idea of like performance and taking up space, and that in itself, I was sort of went down this rabbit hole this week about thinking about how if you told somebody, you know, 15 years ago that they would take up space digitally, they would have thought that's wild, right? They would have just been like, that's just not going to happen. I'm not going to take up, I shouldn't say physically, I'm not going to take up space in a digital way, right? And now, like, I mean, the obvious Instagram experience, right? Like you're taking up some digital, you're taking up some space there, but even in these avatars or gaming, like you're taking up space. And I think that concept in itself has yet to even be tapped into in its full potential. And I mean, I don't even know if there's ever an end to it, but I've been really diving into that topic that you brought up, Randall, this week. And I think that that's sort of where these accessories I'm thinking of, that's why I don't want to limit them to being like, no, it has to be something that we can think of visually right now that makes quote unquote sense, because who knows where these can go as far as even the concept of existence or taking up space digitally. And I want them to just sort of evolve on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'll do another version of this. I'll send it out. I would love if you have if you're like close to anybody else in the group, maybe ping them this week and say, hey, you know, add some accessories to this board. Because I want to get that deadline. I want to meet that deadline. What else do I have on my list? I reached out to one of the developers this week. Their name is Scott by Scott, a really great prototyping company here in LA. They're in Boyle Heights, for those of you in LA. They're awesome. I had a good call with them, and they are very interested in sort of helping us out when we need to. I just basically told them it's a chore coat, and they said, yep, that's not going to be super involved. So we can talk at a later date about moving forward with them if we want to, but at least they're around and willing to help us if we want to. And then I think next week I'll try to compile everything that I've been doing, drawings, the accessories list, and then sort of the direction I'm thinking for it all, so that we can just like dive into it deep.
Cool.
Does that work?
Totally works by me.
Cool. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. And so if you ever go by there and you want company, let me know.
Bye.
Scott by Scott.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday, and it was funny. So he did a lot of work with well, they just dropped Yeezy, which I thought was great. But they've done a lot of work with that kind of, I know, I was actually really proud of. They've done a lot of work. It's a brother-sister team. They're from Boyle Heights, moved to New York, then moved back here to like start in Boyle Heights, their company. They've done a lot of work with Union and Reformation, like a lot of really great brands that have become quite big. And he was like, so what's the project? And I was like, it's a physical chore coat. It has a digital existence. There's some accessories that are going to exist digitally, and it's for a future adventure. And he's like, that sounds awesome. I don't know what it is though. And
Yeah,
I was
perfect.
like,
That's where we start. Yeah.
great. I was like, that's exactly what I want. And he was like, cool, let's do it. So he's great. And their shop is really great. It's all like ethically done and great, awesome stuff. They feed stray cats on the side. So they're really great people. But I think we would have to also talk to them about budget, because that stuff can get very expensive very quickly. So if we decide to meet with them, I think we need to talk beforehand about all of that.
Sure.
Just because I have done these things before, and it just gets out of control quickly. So, but Brandon's awesome. I really do trust him as far as him being a pretty he's not out to take anyone for a ride here. But yeah.
Cool.
And the last thing I was going to say was, I guess that's about it actually. Oh, I did some fabric sourcing too last week. I went downtown. And I can bring some samples, Julian, if we meet up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Always game to meet up.
Yeah, the sample stuff is really fun. I've been enjoying. It's really easy to find samples for this stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Nice. Thank you.
Oh, let me stop.
What else?
I've been spending some time in Stable Diffusion, just working on solar punk stuff, but it's taking a lot of like effort to kind of maintain continuity between the different models, sorry, not engines.
What have you been working
For
on?
solar punk.
Okay, check. How's that one going? What can I do to help with ABC Solarpunk?
I think we're in the rendering phase right now. It just seems like everything, most of what was done was using the last version of Midjourney. And now that Midjourney's become super awesome, we're just re-rendering everything with new Midjourney. I know you're doing
Crepuscular rays.
What's that?
Crepuscular rays, like the rays of light hitting underwater.
Oh yeah. Some of the stuff that we thought was
But
great.
you can now use Midjourney 4 as a term in Stable Diffusion.
Oh yeah, as a reference, yeah, because it's
Like as
kind
an
of got its
aesthetic,
own style. Yeah, a trick with Stable Diffusion is to try using negative prompts. I don't know if you've tried that yet.
What's a negative prompt?
A negative prompt is when you tell it what you don't want, and it basically makes Stable Diffusion renders like way better. Like Stable Diffusion 2.0 was released, and it's basically like a nerfed version of 1.5. And so a lot of people were complaining that portraits in Stable Diffusion 2.0 weren't even basic stuff that is fully like doesn't need to be nerfed, isn't looking as good. And some people started just applying negative prompts and just overtly saying, you know, so you say beautiful woman, and then in negative prompt, you're like, make it not ugly, not asymmetrical face. You basically
not incorrect anatomy.
Yeah, not incorrect anatomy, not ugly looking hands. And all of a sudden it looks amazing. So I don't know what the thinking is there, but that's something some prompt crafty engineers figured out, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing that I think we're going to need some help with is the writing specifically. That's going to be a big one. So probably one of the better examples there is the word foraging. Like I feel like that's the closest to being fully done. Like I think the image is awesome. I think the copy's okay. In somebody to edit the copy, to tweak it up and make it what it needs to be, I think that one's done and in the can, and we can lock it up and then move on to the other ones. So there's a lot of images that don't have words, or there's a lot of like early ideas of what those words might mean that haven't been crafted well enough. And the idea is to try to create a tone that works throughout. We made some decisions that we want it to be in present tense speaking. So anything that we talk about pre-solar punk technology is past tense. We want it to be written so that it feels like an ABC book, like it's written for a child, but not dumbed down to the point where it's the reading level is too low, knowing that this is still education for adults. It's a children's book it's in disguise. It's still designed for adults. It's still meant for people like us who know nothing about solar punk to flip through and get new ideas and understanding, kind of shape this thought, and they could share it with their children, and it would be equally enjoyable for both young and older. So that's basically it. The Camille mentioned something about playing around with GPT-3 to do editing. We can definitely do writing and editing with GPT-3. That's entirely possible. The foraging entry was written in GPT-3 with some light editing by me. I find that writing with AI than editing with human is works well. I think that if you've already written something, you can paste it into GPT-3 and tell it to put it in the present tense and make it feel aspirational with a younger reading level, specify the word count. And the new version of GPT-3, by the way, is really good. So I encourage you to give it a shot if you haven't tried it yet.
Can you, I feel like I've asked you and probably other people this a zillion times. Is there can you point me to the quick start guide if I wanted to start mucking about with GPT-3?
Yeah, let me find something. It's quite simple. I can probably explain the quick start guide right now. If you just go to the OpenAI website and you go to the playground, you'll see a big empty text box. And in that big empty text box, you can instruct it to do anything you want. So you could say, write a blog post about the 10 best meals to eat at Christmas. Literally that's the prompt. Just write whatever you want. So you could say, and then you hit the go button and it just renders it. So you could also do something like paste a paragraph. You could write a prompt that says, paraphrase the following paragraph to be scientific sounding. And then you paste the paragraph below and then you hit the go button and it'll just do it.
Okay, hold on a second.
If you want to, I can just fire it up right now and give you
Yeah,
a peek.
I've got it fired up. So maybe if I can share screen.
Yeah. Share screen and I'll walk you through it. Back to resume.
Screen shared.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So if you go to a good way to start, go to examples. This will give you an idea. Yeah, and in those examples, you can see a bunch of pre-written things. Go to maybe Q&A just at the very top. So that's what the prompt, yeah. So you open it in Playground. And so that very first line, I am a highly intelligent question answering bot. So you're defining what it is. If you ask me a question that is rooted in truth, I'll give you the answer. That QA, that's a training set. That's a very, very small training set. So now you could ask it a question down below that's rooted in the truth. Okay, and on the next line, write the letter A and colon, and now hit submit. Okay, back up. Go delete that. Delete a colon, the last one it created, and then add a space, and hit submit. Okay, delete both a colons and just hit submit at the end of the question mark. There we go. What? Oh, you've reached your usage limit. So have you might want to upgrade.
It's been a couple. Yeah, it's been a couple months since they used it, so I don't know what's going on. Okay, yeah. So when you're talking about the when you're doing a thing like you were describing with for ABC Solarpunk, you're like, yeah, I was playing around with like getting it to do things. Mm-hmm. How did you go about that? What did your playground look like?
Here, let me share my screen.
Okay, passing the conch shell to you.
Where are we? Boom. All right, so go to API. Let's take a look at some examples. So if we open this in Playground just to do this here, I can ask when were wacky packages released? Is that what you?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, so I should be able to, whoops, shut up. There we go. 1967. So let's ask another question. What's another question that we might
want? Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, okay. When were Garbage Pail? Is it pale like this? Pale? How's pale spelt?
I don't know.
PAIL, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here.
85.
1985. So what you can do here, and you can just wipe this out completely, and you can write a prompt from scratch. So what we were going to say, let's say, write a paragraph about solar panels. Write it as if you're explaining it to a 5-year-old. I don't know why I did the Q&A thing. I'll have to fix that. But yeah, you can see solar panels are like special windows that help us get energy from the sun. So you can that works pretty good there. Let's see. Let me just go to regular old Playground. So an example here is explain, like, so what I did with hang on. Urban, oh my God, foraging to a 5-year-old, make it from a solar punk future. See if that even does stuff like solar punk is less known. So yeah, so you can see that's basically a way of doing it. If you look at some of the presets, like I've got a DF generator that I made once upon a time. Yeah, invent a filtration product from space travel future, give it a name, a description, and an advertising tagline. Let's do this. I think this is an incomplete one. The Aqua Bubble. This amazing product filters out contaminants and impurities from any water source, making it safe to drink along space voyages. Aqua Bubble is essential for any astro adventurer. So you can see that's the very basic way of doing it. I have another DF gen that I created here. Yeah, this is based on some of the stuff that we had done before.
So what do we need to do for ABC Solar? Like, what, in what ways? Yeah, I guess.
All right. So for ABC Solar Punk, what I would recommend is we go and look at a word. If somebody can just pick a word off the ABC thing, that my brain is not working right now. There is no one specific formula, but if we said like aquaculture, let's just do that one because I know that's aquaponics. Aquaponics is there. The way that I would handle aquaponics is I would start by saying, you know, what is aquaponics?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll ask the question to see what it delivers. Oh, it's thinking. Wow. All right, that's kind of cool.
Are you so you said it was cool. So what is your criteria so that if I were to help, like it comes out good? Because there's something in here for aquaponics.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's cool in that it understands the concept of combining aquaculture.
You're like that's sort of like AI is cool.
Yeah. Sorry, AI is cool in a symbiotic environment. The fish waste provides an organic food source for growing plants. Then okay, so what I might do here,
because there's something in here that's kind of like that already in the. So in your notion. So aquaponics is a method that combines raising fish with growing plants. The fish waste provides nutrients for the plants, and the plants help to purify the water. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So three sentences.
Yeah, that's great. But let's just pretend nothing's written and we're just doing something like this. Like a way that you might go about doing it is you could start by just asking it what the basic question is. The basic question here is it's written in a very straightforward way. But what I like, what the cool thing about it is that the AI understands the concept. So I think that's really important. So cool. We've got something that we can start editing right now. So I'm going to leave this text here and I'm going to add explain the following to a 5-year-old. So now the goal here is I'm going to take what it wrote here and I'm going to tell it to simplify it. And let's see what it does. Oops. Okay, that's funny. Basically, it's a way of growing food without soil. Okay, that's cool in the sense that it really simplified it. So I'm gonna say explain the following in one short paragraph. In 3 sentences. In 3 sentences. Now let's see what it does. I'm just going to delete that and see what it does. Ah, stupid you. All right. So in this case, it's not working. So I'm going to do
What about-
explain.
Oh, what if
Explain it.
you-
Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, what if you put it to like a 15-year-old? Would it do anything different?
Sure.
Or without the 3 sentences, or you can just like your first prompt was.
Closed loop system.
Yeah. So what I would do is you can experiment, because it's natural language. You could literally just do it as if you were asking a writer with an encyclopedia to do it for you. And I like to always start with the basic concept, like what is aquaponics? Cool, I get that you understand it. Now next, it's like, what is aquaponics? Now explain it to a 15-year-old. Okay, that's cool. And then the next question would be like, you write it, explain it to a 15-year-old. And then would you instruct it to say it from the future, right? As if we're in the future talking about the past or something like that. I'm not thinking about it completely right now, but that's one way to do it. What you could do here, because I'm liking where this is going, I would just copy this out, and then it's just human edit the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like you've got the beginnings of it. It explains to you what it is, what it does, this idea that it's a closed loop system. I did like that previous comment. It's basically a way to grow food without soil. Okay, that's cool. How do we just take that and just craft it as a meat space human? And that's what you've got. That would be a way of doing it. Another thing that you could do is you could go to Wikipedia, look at aquaponics, and copy the description, paste it in like in this area here, and then above that you could say paraphrase the following as if you're explaining it to a 15-year-old. That's basically how you use GPT-3. In the basic way of using GPT-3, if you've got examples, like, so for instance, if we start creating 5 or 6 examples that we really like the style and the tone of, we can describe, let's say, aquaponics and paste in the description, and then foraging, paste the description, another word, paste the description, so that we can say, here's the next word, and it will auto-complete that description, but it'll use all the descriptions above as a training set to inform how it writes at the bottom. So you can get better consistency by creating a training set, which is effectively that in the examples, if you look at the Q&A.
May I make you a question? This means that we can teach our own personal style to GPT-3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in this case, here's the question, you're defining what it is and what it's programmed to do, and you give an example of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. So you could see that this is a question that has like a factual answer to it, so on and so forth. And at the end, when you ask a question here, you get something that will be factual. If we say, express this solar punk concept from the future to a 15-year-old, I could say aquaponics description, foraging description, word description, and then I introduce a new word, and then boom, it'll start generating descriptions based on what you've done before. In an ideal world, you have at least 20 items for a training set, but you can do 1, 2, 3, just as many as you can conjure up. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I think I just need to be more focused on playing around with it. I think basically.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is just know that you can ask it a question and it'll give you an answer. It'll attempt to give you an answer, and sometimes it gives you really great answers.
Yeah.
But it's not going to get it right all the time. So it's prompt engineering. How do you tweak your question to conjure the right kind of answer?
Right.
May I make another question? If we told GTP3 to give the words for the book, for the ABC, it will do it?
Yeah, well, that's how the book was created at first, right? The very first iteration of the book,
it was like that. Okay.
You know, it's like it was write the ABCs literally of solar punk. I did something along these lines. I have it all captured in a Notion somewhere. So the very first iteration of the ABCs of solar punk was literally this, that I pasted into Notion, and everybody went, holy crap. And then we went in and slowly changed pretty much every single word to be our own. But you could see that, like, even with exploration, it knew it couldn't find a word for X, so it just capitalized the X in the word exploration, which is really interesting.
Yes,
we ended up finding a cool word for that. But yeah, the answers that I'm getting today are so much better than the answers that I got months ago when I first rendered the
why does it happen? Because it has an improved library, or? Yeah,
well, it's the GPT-3. So DaVinci 02 was the one that I was using back then. Now it's DaVinci 03. And I don't know what the secret sauce is, but it's better. It's just, it can take instructions better, and its output is better. This is a version they released 3 days ago.
It's cool. What were you, when you said earlier, Midjourney got a lot better to you? What are the few things? What are a couple, I guess, high level things, or why it's so much better, you think, now?
I think it's faces is one of the things that is doing really well. Let's see if I can get this. Oops. Yeah, so a good thing to do is to go on the Midjourney community feed and see what's rising to the top. But yeah, it's doing things with faces. Like, the latest trend with Midjourney has been pick a movie. You can see a bit of it here. This is the Wookiee family portrait, Darth Vader wearing a Coogee sweater. I don't know what that is. But it's been taking, like, imagine what is it, Star Wars directed by Wes Anderson, like prompts like that, like combining styles. And it's doing really great. Yeah, Pixar animation of a Princess Leia. So that was something that on the Midjourney Discord they have, what do you call it, a daily prompt challenge. And I think they were like mash up movie styles. And but you can see, like, stuff like faces are looking a whole lot better these days. The mashing up of styles is another thing that you could say, apply this style to this type of image. That's what seems to be the big thing. But yeah, it's it's some really good stuff on the community page.
Cool.
Jed, have you messed around with this at all?
No, not really. I mean, I threw a couple prompts in once, but that was it. But I mean, just listening to you, Dre, here is, I think it's getting my focus and curiosity more to try it out again, or to try it more. Yeah, maybe sometime, Dre, I can, I don't know, look over your shoulder a little bit about how you start creating.
Yeah, well, you know what, I might do something next week where I actually
you did one before in the past, right?
Yeah, I did one before in the
past. It might be time for another one.
And last week I was doing some solar punk rendering, and I just jumped in the donut shop. It was a last minute thing. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and I had a couple of beers, and I was like, I'm just gonna jump in the donut shop, and I just hung out in the donut shop, played some music, and played around with Midjourney.
Nice.
And if anybody popped in, that would have been fine. So I think next time I'll announce, like, hey, I'm gonna have a couple of beers and jump in the donut shop and do some work. If you want to watch me work, then, you know, if you want to work together, then, you know, because I'm gonna do the solar punk in the Midjourneying channel on the Discord. So anybody who who participates in that. We can see one another's work as we're going on. And I like taking other people's prompts and tweaking them. I do that with David all the time. And it always yields great results.
I'll tune into the Midjourney channel like when stuff starts just watch and see what's going by. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you can do with this is, some of this stuff doesn't even look like it's AI art. When I see this and when I see this, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely AI art stuff. But a buddy of mine who makes board games is like, look at this. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Little Christmas llama. A friend of mine's making, oh, this is interesting. Yeah. So I think the other thing too is the consistency in characters, that you can kind of make it look somewhat the same. But yeah, being able to render something like this is a character sheet for some next level Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yeah.
I also like to check what they're doing. Every day I do this. Sometimes I also get perplexed as some very long and detailed prompts don't turn into something very spectacular. But then you have very simple prompts that, the output is something quite amazing. And I get a little bit confused by that. How simple prompts sometimes have an amazing output compared to, and then you get to see that some people with these very detailed prompts, they struggle a lot and they are always optimizing and refining the prompt. So it's strange somehow.
It's sort of encouraging to me in a way, insofar as like some people are really amazing at the violin, yet I picked it up and it just sounded like I was killing a cat. There's got to be that level of if you could have that level of like non-technical mastery, where it's more like, yeah, I don't know what it is. I can't explain to you why I can play the violin so well. Lots of practice, lots of listening and watching, and you develop a skill through hard work as opposed to just kind of rocking up to something in the spirit of like, it'd be nice if there were some artisan, I don't know, what's the word, like actually you have to have skill, you can't just do it like this whole thing. Reach for a book.
Reach for the book.
Yeah.
Well, that was the farthest reach today.
So like this wonderful book for me, it's less about like I want to learn magic. It's more like I just thought it was funny that there's a magician's handbook with, what is it?
It uses the same
More than 200 illustrations, right? So the implication, not the implication, but the thing that draws you into it is like, oh great. I mean, it's a little bit thick, but if I get through this, I'll be a great magician. And it's like, no. It's going to take you 15 years of heartbreak before you actually become a good magician. Because it's not just about like the instruction of the technical way in which you kind of palm something. It's like you got to practice that over and over again. And you have to suffer through the 7-year-old kid at the bar mitzvah that's like, I see it right there. You suck. You have to do that for like 20 years. Like to get that level of mastery that actually makes now you're a magician. It's like, what was that? Geo Dreams of Sushi or whatever, where he's got to do like the egg sushi for like, and then once they're like, okay, now you can move on to shrimp, and he just like breaks down in tears. Yes, I've been doing this for so long. Like I want that. That should be the equivalent for
Prompters.
Yeah, like Dre, if we actually had the near future laboratory production studio, it would be like, hey, there's a brief for a little social media film, like someone doing Midjourney.
Yeah.
And the master is like, boink, 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 boink. Oh my God, that's great. And then someone types in the exact same thing, it hits return, and it's just like, like a blob. Like, what'd you do? I don't get it. Oh, you're hitting the keys all the wrong way. Yeah, softer touch. What do you mean, softer touch? You need a mechanical keyboard. I got a mechanical keyboard. Wrong one. What do you mean?
To that end, the thing that I've been, my tiny mind has been kind of blown by this week is, people watching the peripheral, the way that they like control reality dials and stuff like that is like thumb and forefinger and just twisting or moving along fingertips. I wrote that because I don't know if I mentioned like have like a remote control car and a remote control plane in VR, and I started by making it so that you control like as though you have a controller in your hand. But the downside of that is that there's no physical resistance against your hand for which direction the joysticks are in and what they go in and what they don't. But one of my teammates pointed out that that thing that I wrote still works when your fingers are touching each other. So that like get my hand around so you can see it. So like doing this is the same as having a joystick going like that. And just the sort of to your point, Julian, about mechanical keyboards and all of those kinds of multidimensional inputs that come from having more refined, nuanced detail input into a system. That will all be possible when people have decent hand tracking and things like that. And it's just kind of at a loss as to where to plug that in, because for all of the sort of sophistication of a Mid-Journey or a GPT or even like a Photoshop or Illustrator, the literal actual input of all of those things is incredibly coarse-grained. It's incredibly unrefined in terms of what it is you do. Like I've often thought that it would be really interesting for people to be able to tweak gradients with a couple of fingers to be able to kind of control those color stops simultaneously, and so that you actually can get a knack for how you're sort of positioning your gradients. And that's kind of out of the realm of possibility right now for most of the way that we use computers, but it's not far away. And so that's been writing some of those things and then trying to spend some time thinking about what the practical implications of it are. So I wanted to share that.
So if I understand that right, you're writing the interactions to work with VR, is that?
Yeah. So using like an Oculus Quest and other things like that that have hand tracking, and then what I've been doing is taking all of the 18 or so joints that are in hands, and then doing the vector algebra to figure out the sort of the dot product of two pole vectors between your pinky and your thumb like that, or between your phalange root and your index tip. But just working out, like looking at the maps of it all and going like, what do I mean? And then computing the math for it, and then trying to put that into systems like controlling a little toy plane and things. It's fun. Hopefully relevant for somebody one day.
It reminds me of those, I don't know too much about it, but I just know a few people that I forget what the software is called, but it allows you to draw in VR. Like, do you know, I think the website's Joy World, the guy who does, John Orion, I think it is. Yeah, his kind of technique of, it's using, I guess it's just using a virtual palette, right? In a sense to do all that type of thing. But I guess what you're explaining is more, you kind of lose the palette and you just do it through gesture or nuance. That'd be.
And having things like hand grips and other objects. But one of the things that's really exciting to me about it is that having recognizable grips where you're maintaining contact, because we use tools most of the time in the world. And so like just holding your fingers, like that's kind of one of the reasons why the theremin didn't really take off, is because the only person who has ever got good enough at it was Clara Rockmore, who could like move her fingers at the right distances in the same way that you control a violin. But on a violin, like more people play a violin than play a theremin, because they have things for their fingers to rest against to be able to kind of sort of dictate position. And so
actually, I met a when it was a while ago, I did this thing. this event, and one of the people who was also at the event was Carolina Eck, who's like a master thereminist, and we became good friends.
That's awesome. I think I have. I think I have heard of them.
I think she's one of the bigger masters of it. It's very
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen like a handful of people who are in the contemporary age very good at it. I think Rockmore like did it at the get-go of it. But that's really exciting. I will look her up. But yeah, I find that kind of instrumentality really exciting. And yeah, it's what I've kind of struggled with things like Midjourney and GPT, is just like, I like my hands, and more than just for character punching. And so I want to be able to use them to dictate the sort of subtleties and idiosyncrasies of my output.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, I gotta jump. I realized someone booked a call at the bottom of the hour. Cool.
Yeah, thanks for this morning.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dre,
cool.
for sharing all this stuff. And
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I'm gonna get going too. Gonna go do things, get the weekend started. Kemp, I sent you a link on Discord to, I kind of redid your little poster that you made in as a Google Doc.
Ooh, nice.
Actually, I'll just and I created a bit.ly, a shortened URL for the Miro board. So if you click
that's
on
a good idea.
yeah, so that's more
great.
it's more human readable. Anyways, just go and do what you need to
Yes.
do. I think I did what Randall talked about, a call to action, like just simplify the messaging, like what do we need from you? Where do we need you to be? Go to the Miro, and I put a big flash that was like, your last chance to contribute.
Dude, this is
Like,
awesome.
up the urgency. So yeah,
Yeah.
feel free to add the text description under the images. I didn't type that out.
Free
So-
donut with every entry.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Well, where's
Dre,
this
thank you so
upgrade?
much for that. That's awesome.
A donut dustbuster, a little broom. That's my accessory contribution.
Where'd you put it? Is it in the channel? Or you just sent a DM?
I'll pop it in the channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I DM'd it to Kemp, but let me
Cool.
where's the shortcode? Here we go. Boom. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, guys.
Great. Thank you so much.
See y'all. See you in the Discord.
Peace.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.